We're down to our final four in the Champions League, and in this video, we're going to let you know which two sides can lift to see another round and get the chance to win ultimate glory in a single match in Budapest. Let's get started with the first side of the bracket being Bayern Munich against PSG.
Yeah. I'll start with PSG. I mean, first off, this is no doubt the tie of the tournament so far, right? What us neutrals would hope would be the final. If these two teams had been on different sides of the bracket, I think it very well could have been. And starting with PSG, looking at their tie against us, Liverpool, I, of course, expected them to beat us, but what they really proved here is that they could control a tie thoroughly. I came in worried about the transitions. Yes, that threat was still there, but that's not even where most of the scoring came from. Even in more settled possession, you saw Dembele dropping off, Kvara and Barcola really stretching our back line, Hakimi and Mendes giving them great width, Vitinha and Joao Neves finding great angles in midfield. It was all across the pitch. Everyone was working, and they were finding the right opportunities together. They just seemed very coordinated together. And when we did even put up good pressure from time to time, PSG still played through it very well. So there's just so much cohesiveness in this team. And for when I'll look at Bayern later, of course their pro is their attack, but I think with PSG, just generally, this team is great. They're an all-rounder. Bayern are going to try and dominate, press high, push the fullbacks forward, and they're going to create waves of pressure. But if Bayern press and PSG escape even once, suddenly you have Kvara, Barcola, Dembele, Hakimi all running at now a stretched back line. Terrifying. Bayern have a ridiculous attack, but if you can get past it, there will be space behind, and PSG are maybe the best team in Europe at punishing that. I could see some concerns in the midfield. To be clear, PSG's midfield is great, but Bayern could try and overwhelm them with tempo, so they'll have to be squeaky clean yet again. But they absolutely can be. And just seeing how calm they've been playing, I think they have a real good chance to survive Bayern's pressure, even over two legs, and make it through. Yes, they will concede chances. You can't avoid it against Bayern. They just need to survive enough of that pressure for their own quality to show. And I think this team can definitely manage that. Yeah.
My concern with their ability to do so is not the fullbacks. The fullbacks can bomb on both sides of the pitch. They are very strong defensively, and that's partially what allows PSG to stay resilient while being attacked. And of course, their ability to push up forward, overload, is what makes them so strong in transition, or at least a big part of that. But I would say, especially Marquinhos, has let down PSG at times on the defensive line, and against what is clearly the best attack in the world, a team that has destroyed the Bundesliga record for most goals in a season with several games still to go. I'm not sure if PSG can handle the pressure of having bombarding attacks from Bayern Munich for 180 minutes. And so I think that the best strategy for PSG is actually perhaps to try to play through transition somewhat, but just in general, outscore Bayern. They have insane offensive depth. They have guys like Ousmane Dembele and Kvicha Kvaratskhelia who always turn up at the end of the season when, the going gets tough and you have to win these crucial Champions League games. We saw it last year. Ousmane Dembele and Kvaratskhelia, once he signed for PSG, reached another level once it came March, April, May, and they had these crucial Champions League fixtures. And we're seeing the exact same thing happen again this year. I think that's just a common theme with the mentality of these PSG players. But like you said, I'm a little bit worried about the midfield. Part of it is that Bayern's midfield is just so solid, Pavlovic and Kimmich. And also a big part of it is the fact that Vitinha, who is really important to their creativity and ability to break down teams in regular offense, is going to be injured for basically the entire season. Or not the entire season, but basically most likely both legs. And I think that could be a big issue for how PSG attack in this tie.
Yeah, but to be fair, Bayern are definitely the one team left in Europe where I look at PSG's attack, look at all their pros, the cohesiveness, and still rarely question, can PSG actually outscore these guys? I mean, Bayern's attack is just, again, I have to say it is so absurd right now. They scored 6 across two legs against Real Madrid. Over the tie, they were clearly the more repeatable attacking side. Madrid had huge, great moments, especially in the second leg with Goulet and Mbappe. But Bayern kept coming back. Every time Madrid scored, Bayern reset, got back on the ball, and they went right back to work. It took no time at all. They create consistently. They consistently take those chances well. You have Kimmich to control the tempo, Musiala breaking lines, and Elise finding great spaces to either score themselves or they can also create for Kane, Diaz, Davies. Just such a great attacking profile these guys have on this team. I've not even mentioned the youngsters like Leonard Carl or Bischoff if he somehow goes insane again and he finds a brace, which he managed to do before from left back. With basically any combination of these players, they can put up an insane amount of pressure. Against PSG, that's just what they're going to be doing. They need to make PSG defend for long stretches. If this becomes an open transition battle, we know PSG can take advantage because Bayern will leave space and PSG will get those opportunities to get behind them and create some huge chaos. But if Bayern can keep PSG pinned deeper, circulate the ball quickly, and force those repeated defensive actions from PSG's back line, then said back line has to be perfect for close to the whole 180 minutes. I think Bayern can absolutely take over the tempo of this game, get a whole lot of possession across this tie, and really force PSG's backline to do so much work. And it's like you said, that backline, especially the center backs, are really the weak point here. If there is one with PSG, because again, I think they're great all around, if there's a weak point, it is that backline, and Bayern, again, can take advantage. The question is, can they finish enough of those early chances before PSG eventually start to find their own opportunities going the other way? But given that Bayern have scored in like every game this season, I think this team has earned the right to trust its attack to do that.
Part of what makes their attack so deadly and consistent is that you can try to stop somebody in the offense, but you can't stop everybody. In the first leg, Michael Elise ran rampant against Real Madrid. There was no stopping him, and he was the creator that allowed Bayern Munich to unlock Madrid's defense. In the second leg, Madrid, I would say, do a much better job at containing the wingers, at least until the red card, but they're not able to also contain the midfield and Harry Kane. That's what makes this Bayern squad so deadly. Harry Kane so far has 12 goals in 11 UCL games, making him the top goal scorer of the players still remaining in the competition. And the midfield, like you said, provides also a lot of benefit in giving them consistent attacks. Pavlovic, very strong defensively, and he creates space and freedom for Kimmich to be good with general distribution, long balls, even set pieces. And I would say the one question mark, if anything, for Bayern in this offense is that number 10 role. Obviously, Serge Gnabry is out for the season, and Jamal Musiala is very likely going to have to play most, if not all, of the 180 minutes in this tie. And to be frank, this is arguably the biggest 180 minutes of his career so far. We have never seen how somebody with his amazing technical ability, him in particular at least, how he will perform in such high stakes. Will he fold under pressure, or will he show the brilliance that we have seen in flashes, obviously partially nullified by all of his injuries? Only time can tell on that part. But the one other issue for Bayern is that while I trust them to be very strong in a shootout, I don't know how they can do defensively. Because the very same issues we can talk about with PSG's backline, you can also talk about with Bayern's. I would say Jonathan Tah and Upamecano are not the most consistent center backs.
Upamecano for sure.
Teams.
Yeah,
for sure. I would say Upamecano was actually quite decent in the second leg, but not at all in the first leg. And it's not like this is a one-time thing. I would say he is a repeat offender with looking quite shaky against the strongest teams in the world. In the Bundesliga, obviously no problem. Bayern can smoke everyone. But the Champions League, it's a different story.
Yeah, and I mean, both these teams I think are generally great. They're top class, but they do each have their like pros and cons that you've got to compare against each other. It's really close for me. Bayern are still going to be like terrifying in attack, but PSG are more complete, of course, than that Madrid team that Bayern just beat, and so their transition threat is going to be better, which means Bayern just have to play better against it. However, I still lean Bayern. Over 2 legs, I think I just trust their ability to create pressure more consistently, to, again, really take control of this tie, take control of possession, and just create more chances from themselves. And since they do consistently finish off those chances as well, I think they can continue to do that here. Both teams, I think, will go back and forth with goals across both legs. But Bayern's attack just feels like it can just keep producing chance after chance, and eventually something's got to give. Pretty high aggregate score, I think, but Bayern will edge their way to the finals. It probably will just be like a 1 goal difference for whoever does win it, because I think they're that close together. But yeah, it's Bayern for me.
I do have a 1 goal difference in who wins this tie. And I think one thing we should have to consider is I think there are some people that are assuming Bayern's going to just dominate this tie because Bayern played PSG in the group stage and they looked pretty dominant, at least until Bayern got that red card. But I want to remind folks that PSG played Arsenal in the group phase of the last Champions League. Arsenal won that match 2-0, but when it came time to face each other in the semifinals, when it really counted, it was of course PSG who came out on top in that tie. However, I agree with you. I have Bayern Munich going through, and that is because if this match just comes down to who can score more goals, I will be backing the team that has two of their strongest offensive threats, also being the two favorites to win the Ballon d'Or this season.
Yeah. I mean, I think if it does come down to goals, Bayern are a goal-scoring machine, right? So what can you say? Let's go to a game or a tie where we're probably not going to see nearly as many goals, just because that is exactly how these two teams like it. We have Atletico facing Arsenal. What do you think of this other semifinal tie?
First off, I'm going to start with Arsenal. We've talked about them quite a bit because we cover the Premier League, of course, and I have to say, for Arsenal, offensively, they have been very worrying over the past few months. Against Sporting, for example, in the Champions League, there were times where Eze was the only offensive player who was generating anything for Arsenal, and especially in that second leg, pretty much all of their attacks were just completely neutralized by Martin Højlund. And with all respect to Højlund, if you can't get past him and Sporting, how are you going to get past Atletico Madrid's strong midfield? You know, the Coques, the Cardosos. We have to remember, Pablo Barrios wasn't even playing against Barcelona in the quarterfinals because he was injured. But he is so instrumental to their midfield as well, and he's going to be back for this match. Even Llorente can play anywhere on the pitch, just like Cardoso. Whether he's on the right, whether he's playing central, he is everywhere. He is so immense for Arsenal. And so I don't know that Arsenal can rely on their own team to score goals and win in a traditional way against Atletico. Now, what will help them somewhat is I believe Saka is back. I don't know if he played, but he was finally on the bench against Newcastle. And I think the fact that he was listed means there's a good chance that, if not starting, he at least gets a substantial playing time against Atleti in the first leg, and very likely starts in the second. But even Saka, I would say, has definitely had a down year, and I don't know if you want to give him the keys and entrust him to break down this strong Atletico Madrid defense. And so, if anything, the saving grace, in my opinion, for Arsenal is their own defense. The one constant for them throughout this horrible patch across all competitions is that their three best players this season, Rice, Gabriel, and Saliba, have remained shockingly consistent. Despite most teams in this competition having been knocked out long ago, Arsenal still remains the side that has conceded the least goals in the Champions League, with just 5. And 5 goals, that is less than half of any other club in the competition. I believe it's Paphos FC, knocked out in the group stages on 11, which is the second least.
Yeah, I do agree that midfield and the defense for Arsenal is going to be big in this. I think they have been consistent. But I agree with you. I'm concerned about that attack. And if we were to look at, again, that tie versus Sporting, Ebeeze was where a lot of the threat came from, the sole threat for a lot of that tie, which makes for me the fact that he got injured today a bit of a concern. If Arsenal turn out to be playing anything like they were against Sporting, and they do that against Atleti. And let's say it's not certain right now, because we are recording this practically right after the Newcastle game ended. But if Eze is out for even one of those legs, I think that particular leg is going to be real bad for Arsenal. Because it is just hard to say where the attacking threat comes from with this team. They are defensively solid, but it is hard to know where the goals are going to come from. And yeah, I feel like Atleti can very much punish Arsenal if they play this way again. If Arsenal are slightly hesitant, the passing gets too safe, if they spend too long relying on set pieces, Atleti will love that. They'll slow the game down, bring in fouls, stoppages, duels, second balls, everything Arsenal really do not want to have to deal with when they're already lacking attacking rhythm. And if there's one last thing to consider, it is those domestic leagues. Atleti, they've been piss poor in La Liga lately, but they're practically still safe in the UCL spots. Whereas Arsenal are fighting for their lives against City for the Prem title. Only managed a goal up on the goal difference today against Newcastle when we had both predicted that they'd be up 2 by the end of that game. So they couldn't take advantage of City also not scoring enough against Burnley. Arsenal are only a goal ahead. City have a game in hand. They look stretched emotionally. I know they were really celebrating, or at least Arteta was at the end of the game earlier today against Newcastle, but it was only a goal. I don't think they should be. There is tough times ahead of them in the league, and yeah, Atleti can throw everything into this tie, whereas Arsenal just cannot. And I think even if they don't think of it explicitly, Arsenal will be prioritizing the Prem. So not that I don't think Arsenal can overcome this factor, but it's just yet another thing that they have to contend with, right?
The fine margins definitely matter at this stage of the Champions League. And yeah, I mean, based on Arteta's reaction, the way he's conducted himself against Newcastle in general, it seems like his plan is to hope City drop points and then win the Premier League that way. And I don't know if someone needs to tell him this, but I don't think Pep is dropping any more points in the Premier League this season. Like, you have to just go out there and win on goal differential on your own accord. You cannot be playing this passive at this point in the season. And with how passive he's been playing, it's funny to say this because we know what the origins of Harambal is. But
it's Simeone, but
me,
Atleti look better.
It's clear that Simeone is by far the more offensive manager in this tie. By far. Atletico Madrid have always had a reputation for being the center of Harambal FC, but I would say they have been slowly but surely shedding that reputation, especially this season. I would even just say the signing of Adeola Lookman, an all-around winger, to at times play basically a front four, that is a sign of the times. Part of the reason why Simeone has been having this job for like forever, and he's allowed to play his own son as their starting right winger. I mean, that goes to show a lot about his ability to evolve with the times and always maintain a competitive Atletico side up against, two giants in Spanish football, and even occasionally win the league. And as well, always seem to stick around and be a big thorn in other teams' sides at a minimum in the Champions League, like they're doing again this season. Look at the midfield, right? I would say, just like with PSG's fullbacks, these are dual-purpose guys. Llorente, Barrios, Cardoso, they provide defensive stability for sure, but they can also be very strong with ball progression and with just the quality that Atleti has up top. That can be enough to score a lot of goals. I mean, we talk a lot about how Atletico played Harambal against Barcelona, both in the Copa del Rey and in the Champions League. But consider, they went 2-0 up. They went 3-0 up in the first leg. They got the right to play Harambal because they were so offensively dominant in the first leg of both of those ties. Look at their front two. Griezmann, he is playing with such freedom, and I think part of that is because he knows this is his sort of farewell tour, and he knows that he will be leaving to Orlando in the MLS at the end of the season. Julian Alvarez, I would say, has not always been on form this season, but especially in big games, he has clearly picked it up recently. Obviously, he lost the Copa del Rey final, but he was great in that match, and he was also great across both legs against Barcelona. If anything, meanwhile, Arsenal's weakness is their attack, and their strength is their defense. For Atleti, I would say their strength is their offense, and their weakness, especially against Arsenal, is going to be their defense. Because Atletico have one clear defensive weakness, in my opinion, and it is set pieces. They have conceded 9 goals from set pieces in the Champions League this season, and that is the most. They rank dead last 36 out of 36 teams for most goals conceded from set pieces, and we know that set pieces is Mikel Arteta's preferred way of scoring goals for Arsenal.
Yeah, but to be fair, Arsenal have been off it lately in terms of set piece scoring, right? I don't know when is actually the last time they scored off like a corner. It's been over a month, I think. And you could say maybe it's the Prem teams that have it worked out and Atleti not quite. But I think Simeone can manage that sort of thing. Though, of course, with it being a very clear weakness of Atleti.
I haven't seen it, though. I haven't seen him figure it out yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But, again, with Atleti, I just come back to, we've seen so many knockout ties from them. Not only, of course, against Tottenham, against Barca in the UCL we've analyzed, but also Barca in the Copa del Rey. They have this great knockout formula. Build a good lead in the first leg. They're a bit more aggressive there usually, and then absorb a bunch of pressure in the second, let the opponents get a bit reckless so they can find the goals they need to see the tie out. We saw against Barca, Atleti created some decent chances for themselves. Wasn't their greatest work. Their XG wasn't too high, but consistent pressure they put on Barca to force them into some big errors of their own, from which Atleti found that lead. And then in the second leg, Barca equalized the aggregate score pretty quickly, we saw. But as Atleti was letting them take all those chances, they got reckless. And though it was different from the first leg where Barca were tense in the back, this tenseness in the front did the same thing, and it gave Atleti the chance they needed. One great transition from started with Griezmann, went to Llorente. It was Lookman who ended up scoring. And you just see this, I think, with every knockout tie Atleti has been in recently. They make them tense, scrappy, emotional, and it's usually the opponent to lose discipline first, and Atleti is always ready for it. I will say as well, for the people who don't like Atleti's haram ball, yes, I agree with you, Darian. It has been getting a lot better lately. Against Barca, again, for anyone who does appreciate XG as a stat, they didn't have much of it in the first leg, but in the second leg they weren't far off Barca at all. And if you want to just consider maybe shooting instead of XG, they were equal on shots. They both had like 14, 15 shots in that game, so it was hardly bad. I was watching the game versus Real Sociedad, the Copa del Rey final, which they ultimately lost on penalties, and I saw people celebrating like the death of Haram ball. But Atleti's XG was hardly bad there either. I think they also were like equal with Sociedad on shots in that game. So I think they have very much been improving across this season, especially not as much in La Liga, but especially in these knockout games where they're showing they really can go out there and get the goals they need. And yeah, you can say, oh, they're shit in La Liga. Oh, they play haram ball in La Liga. But this is the UCL. This is another knockout tie. And I'm just going to say they've done well in all these knockout ties. Their record here is good. It's like practically two different things for them, I think, when they play a domestic league game versus when they play Copa or UCL, and they're going to be better in the UCL than this like these last few games they've lost in the league. So Arsenal have got to be worried. They can't just see that Atleti lost to what was it, Elche in the last match week and like they're shit, we'll be fine. No, you won't. Unfortunately, they take the UCL very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, if anything, Simeone, as while he has moved away from his shithead haram ball tactics, he's still a shithead. I mean, this guy is still the guy who, let's say, was a protege of Emi Martinez's psychological warfare, and the fact that he is so shameless, this guy's basically playing a second team in every La Liga game. He doesn't give a crap about that league anymore because, of course, Atletico were long out of the title race, and nobody is close enough to them to threaten them from qualifying for the UCL again anyways. So this guy has been all in, lasered for cup competitions, and while it was not enough, as he said in that Copa del Rey, ultimately losing on penalties, they're still in the Champions League, and they're here to win it. Let's be so clear. There is absolutely no writing off this squad, and again, just with how overwhelming Atleti's attack has been, in all competitions, honestly, at least until they stop playing their starters in La Liga. If you are expecting Simeone to be the way he was 5 years ago, if you're expecting him to just sit back and absorb pressure, you're going to pay the price for that dearly. That is why they're here. They are here on their own merit. And so, I would say, we know how Atletico want to play. They're going to try to build up a lead in the first leg, and they're going to play their style of football in the second leg, which is sit back, strong midfield, and incredible counter with, anchor strong strikers like Griezmann, like Alvarez, like Sorloth on the bench, who are just an absolute menace to deal with in transition. And so, look at this tie. Atletico, the first leg for them, I believe, is at home, right? So they have a very good chance to build up a big lead. And if Arsenal wants to make that up in the Emirates, just based on their form at home recently, I don't know if they can do that. So for me, it's all psychological warfare. It is just like with Pep against Arteta. This is Simeone's psychological warfare against Arteta's and his squad's weak-willed mindset. And for me, that's all the difference. I would say Atletico Madrid are going to be back in the Champions League finals for the first time in a decade.
Yeah. I mean, like, Atleti have even been decent at building leads when their first leg is at home, when their first leg is away. But at home, they've been consistently able to do it. And yeah, they get that opportunity here. Plus, like you said, Arsenal, if they're going to make up for that, have got to be great at their own home stadium. But their own home stadium is where they didn't score against Sporting because they found a goal at the very end of the first leg in Lisbon. And you could argue their second leg in London was worse. Certainly attacking wise, it was. I think in this die, we could see some of Arsenal's player quality is going to shine here. They're going to control more of the ball. I think they'll get more territory, and for stretches, they will look like the better team. But I don't know that they'll make much of it, and especially because Atleti are just so comfortable to give them the ball, so willing to slow things down, and then again let Arsenal be the ones to get impatient. And like I said before, Arsenal are emotionally stretched. They've got to deal with this competition as well as obviously the very stressful Prem title race. And I think they will let up, just as Barca let up eventually and got punished very quickly. We'll see the same with Arsenal. I think Atleti will have full focus, knowing this is their last chance at a trophy, their actual last chance, as opposed to Arsenal, where they have those split priorities. And so Atleti will do what they need to do, take this by one, maybe 2 goals on aggregate, and they will make the final. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it could even be worse. I think it could get quite ugly, in my opinion, for Arsenal.
Could be. I mean, if it was that Newcastle somehow managed to force Arsenal to drop points earlier today, if they tied or God forbid they lost to Newcastle, I think this is just a guaranteed Atleti win, because surely at that point they switch their priorities. But I think they will have split.
Part of me wonders if Arteta is delusional enough to think that if he drew against Newcastle, City might somehow lose one of their matches
to like Everton. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think, even if Arsenal didn't finally have some recognition that, we've got to focus on the Prem and just give up UCL, they will still have split priorities here. And I think that can make a difference as well. And so, yeah, at Atleti, it's like Simeone needs a trophy. He was so close to Copa del Rey and lost it at the very, very end. He wants something. I think that's very clear. He is hungry for honors this season. The team is hungry for honors this season. If they're not going to get La Liga, obviously, then they will put everything.
Not only does he need it, but Atletico for their PR needs it, because
right.
We have seen all the shit that football casuals who don't watch Atletico Madrid say about them on various sites. And I think, maybe they're not paying attention when Atletico plays Real Sociedad or plays in the Copa del Rey in general or in La Liga. But hey, if Atletico Madrid play offensive football and humiliate arguably the best team in England, people are going to have to pay attention to that.
Yeah. And I still wouldn't favor whoever comes out of this tie against whoever comes out of the other one. But what do you think personally? Let's say it's Atleti versus Arsenal to come out of this tie. Which of them would have a better chance of presumably upsetting the other finalist?
Well, it depends on who the other finalist is.
Okay.
I would say Arsenal have a better chance of upsetting Munich, and Atleti have a better chance of upsetting PSG. And that's because Bayern only know one mode. Bayern only know one mode of playing football, and that's attack. And Arsenal are better at handling that sort of pressure.
Can take care of that.
And then PSG, they are more vulnerable in transition and especially aerially against strong, anchor like strikers. And that's the profile of a Julian Alvarez or a Alexander Sorloth. So I think it really depends on who comes out of the other side.
So I guess Atleti will hope for... I don't know that I can necessarily call PSG underdogs, but hope for the less favored team to come out of that side.
Look, I don't think... I think maybe Arteta's thinking that way, but I think...
But that's true.
Simeone
is
doesn't
all
care.
In. Simeone
one
does
match
not
at a
care.
time,
He is
Simeone always is just looking at the dog ahead of him.
Which it's a knockout. It's a knockout competition, right? I think that's great. That is exactly the attitude you need here. Yeah.
Okay, that's why this guy's been in Atletico since 2012, 2014. It's been over a decade.
Because he wins these. Yeah. He's pretty... For the team he has, he's pretty damn good with knockout games. You gotta admit. Okay, well, our predictions have not changed then since last time we did a UCL video for the quarterfinals. But I think at least one of these ties, like for Atleti Arsenal, I'm more confident that Atleti does win it. But I think Bayern PSG could absolutely go either. So my recommendation is, unless you are a fan of Atleti or Arsenal and really like suffering, which if you've been watching them consistently, chances are you do anyways. If you're not though, don't
Jeez.
watch that tie, but absolutely watch PSG.
Wait, no, I'm still watching that tie. Hang on. No,
You are?
hang your hat on Atleti.
Okay.
Please, no more Diego Simeone slander.
Okay.
Please.
I mean,
Honestly,
if both teams don't make it painful to watch, at least one team is going to make it very painful. So
yeah, and then it's going to be all the more satisfying when Sorloth scores a header in the 85th minute. No?
fair.
Yeah, look, honestly, I know everyone likes to hate watch Arsenal for no reason, and I don't support that when it's against City, but when it's against Atletico, I will be hate watching Arsenal in this Champions League tie, trust me. For once, I will be against them, and it will be so much sweeter when, I don't know, a Lookman crossed in behind to whoever, Sorloth or Griezmann or whoever. It's going to be so wonderful. It's going to be so great.
Yeah. I just realized actually, because we're in semis, these games are on different days. Like they don't overlap anymore. So yeah, you know what? Absolutely watch both of them. Watch both ties if you get the chance. Yeah. It'll be good though. I like this semi setup. It's honestly not bad.
Because what's guaranteed is that we get a tactical clash in the final. It's going to be one side.
Right.
I mean, I would say all four of these teams play their own style, but whatever it is, there's going to be a clash in the final, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that is all from the CoDaKrew. No changes from our last set of UCL predictions, but we will see if we get.
Other than my dumbass thinking Barcelona's going to somehow win the UCL. My bad. Yeah, put the fucking dunce hat on my head.
Yeah. Well, we will be seeing you guys next for Prem predictions, but soon enough in, what is it, like 2 weeks' time once this round
just 1
ends.
week, no? Or
we can
the final.
Yeah. We will probably put out a video. I mean, we could even do one in the middle, but definitely I think once both legs end, we will have a full reaction to both ties. And you'll kind of see our initial thoughts on the final. And then, of course, the final comes like about a month afterwards, so we could even do another upload when that time comes. I know the UCL videos, it seems like people tend to like, so we will definitely be doing them. So even if you don't watch the Prem stuff, do stay tuned for this. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And with that said, we will see you guys soon for another upload from the CoDaKrew. Have a good day.
See ya.